Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows and adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Kaiju number 8, Season 1, Episode 9. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up where the last episode left off, and the Kaijus are assaulting the base. The way they kind of responded, it was like, oh, interesting. Like Hoshina points out, none of the areas on the outside have been attacked. They're specifically aiming for the base. I do think the timing is interesting considering Mina's not here, because she did leave last episode. But I am curious. It could also be just happenstance, because that thing came here looking for the strongest. It happens to find Hoshina, but that's because Mina's away. So that could be happenstance, but it could also be coordinated. But it makes it seem like this is a very, very new development, because they've talked about how the Kaiju have gotten stronger and stronger as time has gone on, and things have kind of not. We've had the recent discovery of Kaijus that can talk and are acting more human. My thinking and wondering is, why now? What has changed? And I was like, well, I guess maybe the Kaijus have simply evolved. Just like every other species on this planet has gone through, evolution and has adapted to their new environments. Maybe that's what's happened to Kaijus, that they've gotten smarter and more tactful. I wonder, as I keep saying, like, there's got to be a Kaiju that orchestrates everything from the top, like the tippity top big boss that is orchestrating all this. And I'm curious, is it a situation of they've evolved and they're able to spread it to the others and make them like super intelligent as well? Or is able to mutate them into evolving? I'm curious how that situation works, how they've all become what they've become now. Because I guess this guy would be considered Kaiju number 10 maybe. But I mean, it's like, man, you haven't even dealt with 9 yet, and here comes yet another. Well, in their eyes, they haven't dealt with 8 or 9, and all of a sudden here's 10. But it's like, well, you don't have to worry about 8 as much. Once again, who knows what the future holds for Kafka? He could easily end up losing control of it. But for now, the main enemies are 9 and 10. Well, what is now 10? If they decide to, I would assume they'd go with the whole naming it that. But it's not just him alone. The wyverns he came in were raining down, blowing up pieces of the base. They are trying to attack. It's like the Defense Force is always taken to fight the damn, so now it's time to take the Kaijus to take the fight to the Defense Force, kind of catch them with their pants down, metaphorically speaking. So everyone locks in. Obviously, Kefka's support always coming clutch, because he's like, yo, these are like the wyverns that popped up in 03. Their fronts are super tough, so you need to go for their backs, because that's where it's thinner, because they need like less weight on their back so they can like fly. But also, they're very like solo creatures. Yes, usually it's only been like 12 that pop up in a year, but they're always by themselves. And for them to all be here together is kind of worrying. But it's like, yeah, because there's got to be a Kaiju amongst them kind of taking charge. And to the point that the wyverns are also being tactical, because even though they are solo creatures, they are now orchestrating together. So like when we have Aoi and Haruichi trying to go for their backs, another one interferes. So it's like, how do we get around this? Then we got good old Kikuro showing up with her new weapon. Even though she's not a captain or a vice captain, she's been given a weapon, considering everything going down, and Kikuro being like the third strongest person at the base behind Mina and Hoshina. It's like, you need a weapon. And if you pay enough attention in the outro, there's a picture of her standing on top of a Kaiju or something with a giant axe, which I think that's always the neat juxtaposition, that you have like the small girl, because she's like the youngest of them potentially. I'm pretty sure, like, once again, I don't know if she's necessarily 16, because she might have done all that graduating and moving up quickly at 16, but she might be like still like 18 or 20, whatever the case may be. Her still having like the smallest frame of them, and then her having this giant battle axe. It's always that neat juxtaposition. The one that comes to mind is, if you're familiar with the video game Tokyo Mirage Sessions, was it Sharp FE, I believe? One of the main characters is a small girl. She's like 14, I think. She's a middle schooler, but her power manifests itself as like a tank. She wears like a giant suit of armor, and she has a giant battle axe. So it kind of gives me that same energy. And I like the tactics in which her weapon is used. It's like first it like you pull on the trigger, which pulling on the trigger on a weapon like that reminds me of God, I always blink on its name. Nero from Devil May Cry. It makes me think of his queen, his Red Queen. That's his sword's name, right? Because there's the Blue Rose and Red Queen. But how like that has like a trigger to it. He also revs it like a bike handle. But she could use the shockwave by shooting it backwards, and she is able to accelerate herself forward, which is pretty dope. She can also send a shockwave in front of herself to basically add to the cutting power to it. And so she's able to easily rip into these things' armors. Obviously, you have the next strongest after her. We don't know where Aoi and Haruichi stand, but it kind of seems like the next most powerful one would be Ichikawa, because he's the one that comes in clutch with like the freeze rounds and with his power covering like the wyverns in the air. So those two act as a duo. Aoi and Haruichi, obviously the competitive two that they are. It's like, yo, we need to like kind of back them up and can't let them kind of steal the show from us. But when everything was going down on that front, like it seemed like they were being pushed back initially, but now with Kikoto out on the front lines like that, they're starting to take back. They're especially later on because other units start popping into the base as well. People, senior members who had their day off were like piling in to help too. So a lot of reinforcements came through. Obviously, Kefka helping out one of the other officers, Minase, got there fast enough with his legs. She's like, oh my God, you learned how to use the power. So he's just, I do that, and just kind of like moves past that. Obviously, Ichikawa is like, yo, like, don't feel like you need to rely on your powers. Like, really trust in your other officers. And even, like, Kefka's like, oh my God, look at everyone. Like, how did they all learn to be, like, such an efficient unit? He's like, this is the unit I'm part of. It's like, yo, makes him proud. So it's like, right, me and Mina say, we're going to do our part. We're going to look after the wounded. All the while this is going down, the big Daikaiju that Hisano is fighting, this thing is super fast and ridiculously strong. Funny enough, it kind of gives me Scyther the Sky Dragon. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh card from, well, I mean, the card game Yu-Gi-Oh, but once again, I'm more familiar with like the anime than the card game. But still, because he's like that shade of red and literally a dragon. But this thing's not. But like it just makes me think of Scyther. I said Scyther. I think Scyther. Whatever the case may be. Which is also, you gotta admit, this thing is crazy fast if it's able to keep up with Hosina. But yeah, he's like dodging it because he knows like, yo, a direct hit, I might be dead. So he's doing his thing. But this thing's also thick. Its skin is thick, so he can't really cut through it naturally. Having to dodge this thing, make sure he gets away from the other officer because he doesn't want him. I mean, I think for him, this is also like a good measure of, well, I didn't kill Kaiju number 8, kind of failed at that. Then also 9, I haven't had a chance to go up against, but I got this. And so this is going to test my mettle of like, well, if I can't even defeat this, I mean, the question might even be, well, if I can't beat 8, maybe I can't beat this thing either. So he ends up leading it to the training grounds to try and draw it away, but it's still got the upper hand. And this thing's got an interesting personality. Like, whereas, like, once again, 8's got an interesting personality because it's Kefka's personality. 9 is just very pragmatic and trying to understand. 10 is just all about like, yo, fight. I'm looking for a challenger. I want to be the best. I want to be the strongest. I'm going to take out the strongest. I'm going to feel good about it. Like, it's very prideful and all about testing itself. Wants to, like, you know, test its mettle. So it's going full steam ahead like a bull, forcing Hoshina to go. It's like, yeah, now that I'm away from the other officers, I can go full throttle. So he goes up against this thing. I love at one point, like, I think it was before him, before he activated like 92%, it punched him. But in that moment, he's getting punched and he blocked it. He sliced its arm off. But this thing can regenerate. It must have pretty good stamina because Kefka had said last episode that regenerating like uses up a lot of stamina. So this thing is has enough to keep regenerating pretty quickly too, if need be. So it becomes a conversation of you basically need to do enough damage to offset how quickly it's regenerating. But yeah, initially, like now that he's at 92%, he's going for the gaps in its like armor and slicing at it. But then it's like, oh, well, if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna close the gaps. But in that moment, it's like, actually, I'm gonna slice through you regardless because you think I was aiming for the gaps, but I guess it was looking. I guess that creates any openings. Like I'm trying to guard certain openings in armor might leave other parts exposed. I don't know how that worked, but Hoshino was able to still get through, still slicing and dicing the thing. I especially once again, I love a good like. I'm not just slicing you once or twice. When I just like slash past you and you get slashed like 20 times at once, I'm a sucker for that when it comes to like sword styles. But even to the point that he slashed it initially and exposes its core and he tries to go for it. But I guess in that moment, in the last second, it moved its core so he couldn't kill it. But then all of a sudden, even though it should be dead, it starts blobbing out. At first I was like, is this thing turning itself into a giant bomb or something? But then it lets out like this giant kind of heat and steam because I guess it's almost like releasing a massive amount of exhaust as it's transforming into its next stage. It's like its initial fortitude was like 8 point something. It might have been 8 exactly, but I think it's like 8 point something. And now at where it is at the end of the episode, it's 9.0, which is interesting on the scaling when you compare it to Hoshino, who's like 92% with his strength. So yeah, what was initially them pushing back, coming back on the receiving end, they took down most of the wyverns, if not all of them. This is the last thing standing, and now it turns into this mountainous thing. This would be a good time to have Mina around. Once again, this thing is fast in this kind of Godzilla-esque form it has. I am curious, like, would she be able to shoot it? You probably have to like hold it down in one location and then shoot it because this thing was super fast in its smaller size, and maybe it keeps some of that speed while it's in its bigger form. Maybe not, but it's going to be interesting to see how this assault plays out. There's only 3 episodes left of this season. I believe it's only 12 episodes. So I'm curious to see if this assault ends up taking up the next 3 episodes or what. Or what Kefka's going to do, considering like, well, there's a lot of people around, and if he goes kaiju form right now, he's going to draw a lot of attention, and that's going to lead to, you know, you're going to be smack dab in enemy territory when they literally try to gun for you again. So especially if you go in that direction where that thing is, and Hoshina's there, so I'm sure Kefka's going to try and weigh his options, but it's also the whole thing of I got to trust my squad and everyone in my unit, but it's also like, yo, I'm not even transformed, and I can sense that thing all the way over here. It's giving me a migraine, and I can sense that thing. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.